quick turnaround, isn't it?
It is a quick turnaround.
Yeah, they'll.
Trish and Sunny were both ecstatic that I get to hang out with you.
Wait, there you go.
Matt,
What was that?
will you send me
Locker room's not open until
10:30.
the hours. Sorry, until this ends.
There's a backdrop over by the locker room, so that should be.
Hey, Corey,
Yeah.
put a pin on you.
Should.
You can use mine, Coach.
That's okay. I can steal his.
Sharpies.
Here.
Oh, there we go. I guess I'm stealing this one. It's fine.
That's
Thank
fine.
you. I appreciate it.
I bring
You're good.
everywhere I go.
I usually do too, but ended up just with Sharpies and no pens. Hey, Bill. Nice to meet you. Good. Good to see you. Okay. That'll work.
I mean, what I'll do is I'll do that and then maybe catch it.
That works.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, it's the appointed time, so we'll get started. Welcome UCLA coach Cori Close to the stage. We'll remind you to raise your hand when you have a question. We'll get a microphone to you. Speak as close to the microphone as you feel comfortable. That'll help mitigate the feedback. And if you can identify yourself by name and outlet, that would be tremendous. And we'll go ahead. Do you have an opening statement?
Sure. Just really, obviously really thankful to have another opportunity to try to go 1-0. We obviously have familiarity with LSU and meeting them in the Sweet 16 last year. But, the reality is LSU knows how to win, and they have proven that year after year. And so it's going to take a great effort by us. We thought that boxing out Ole Miss was tough. LSU's an even better offensive rebounding team. They obviously have lots of weapons, and they play with great confidence and aggression. And, Kim Mulkey's one of the best to ever do it. And, so lots of respect for their team, but also really believe in who we are. And it's going to take the best version of ourselves, but we wouldn't want to be in any other position.
Hi, Cori. Kendra Andrews, ESPN. You mentioned the familiarity with LSU. How much, or I guess, what do you remember of that Sweet 16 matchup, and how much do you take from that, even though it was a year ago, and apply it to this year's game?
Well, I think they have some similarities in style of play and, go-to actions, especially to get Williams involved, in terms of how they're going to her. I think they're going to her a little bit more, obviously, than they were last year, with Angel Reese being on their team. So I think there's some personnel switches in terms that don't apply and allow us to have some different matchups than we played with a year ago. And at the same time, I think there are some real similarities in the actions that they run and the style in which they play defense, and the way in which they play the game.
Hi, Coach Grigley at the Spokesman Review. 2 monster games last night for Lauren and for Anissa. How will they be the focus, you think, of both teams going in?
Well, I think in different ways, but both of them are dominant in their own way, right? And, it's not like, Morrow sneaks up on anybody that she's a good rebounder. And still, in spite of that, she just finds a way. Her relentless effort I'm not sure I've seen anybody with that kind of relentless offensive rebounding effort actually since Michaela Onyenwere, who played for us and who's now in the WNBA. It's just so impressive. But the way in which she exerts her dominance is on the offensive glass, and then really being crafty around the rim or attacking from the high post off the dribble. And so that's going to be our challenge, right, is to try to mitigate that and to play, get them out of rhythm. They want to get her clean scoring catches, or they want to take predictable shots that she can go rebound. And so that's, I think we're going to try a lot of different schemes to try to different matchups to try to make her feel uncomfortable. And a little bit, we likened it a little bit to how we tried to make Madison Scott's, touches a little bit more difficult last night, and with different people and in different ways. I never thought she got going in that particular game. Now, some other people did, but not her. And so Morrow create some of those. Lauren is, much, she's not going to be doing it, attacking off the bounce as much and some of those things. But, we need to get her watching the film. You talk about, it does inform us a lot by watching the film. And one of the things that it informs us is that Lauren Betts is a lot better basketball player. And she was good in that game, but she's, as you said, dominant now. But we got to get her deeper scoring touches. They're going to try to push her out. They're going to try to make her put the ball on the floor in order to get closer to the basket, and that allows them to bring a double team. And we call it no move needed. We need deeper seals so that when she gets her touch, there's no move that's needed. She can just turn and go score. So it's going to be important, that your big dogs have to show up in big moments, and that'll be important for both teams.
Cori, Nancy Armour, USA Today Sports. You mentioned last night about how the work that Lauren has done, but I'm just wondering, psychologically or emotionally, how is this team different than last year, and how is it built to maybe withstand late runs, things that you encountered in last year's game?
Yeah, I think that I think we've earned a different level of confidence. I think we're much even in the adverse moments. I would say a word we've really used with this team is poised. And, they don't get rattled too much. And they sometimes to a fault in the fact of like, let's go, guys, let's go. Let's not wait for this to happen. You got to go take it. But the flip side of that is they also don't panic when things don't go their way. And, I think we did have some, maybe panic's too strong a word, but we definitely didn't like the way in which we approached our game with LSU last year, both physically in our tempo and aggression, but also mentally in terms of our confidence that we came into the game with. And I think this year, this team has earned different levels of confidence and aggression that I think puts us in a better position to be our best.
Lauren's always like a big part of your guys' game plan, but LSU really good at crashing the glass. They score inside a lot. I mean, this is going to be a big, even more important game for her, but how much is it like everyone else also needs to do their part just to help alleviate that? I think she said in the first half she was dying yesterday just because of how gassed she was.
Yeah, it was just such a physical game. You don't think about the pace of play wasn't as up and down as we would have liked it actually, and that we're used to. But the physical nature of what she has to exert against is significant. I think that reality for us is you hit it on the head. It's we know what we're going to get from the Stars. I think it's who are those other people that are going to step up in unexpected ways, and what's that. We call them assist box outs, that somebody else, a guard rotating and help the helper that's going to drive their player out, that someone else runs down the rebound. I think it really is going to come down to other people going, okay, this is what it looks like for me to be an elite teammate for this game. And this is what it looks like for me to make our team better for this game. And I really think that what Lauren is proven over a long sample set and a long period of time, we're going to find ways to get her touches, and it's going to go through her. But I think the game will be decided by who else steps up.
Tuning in with the LA Times, Cori, a lot of the players talked about how last year's game made them evaluate how they wanted to get better. I was wondering for you, after last year, how did you spend the offseason thinking about how you could get better as a coach?
Lots of different things, but I think one of the things, I think two areas really started to come to the surface as I did my deep dive into how I needed to be better in the off season. Just like I expect them to add to their toolbox and to respond and grow, I expect the same of myself. And one is we've been a really good special situations or out of timeout team in past years. Last year we were not. And I had to take responsibility that there were about 3 games that I thought I wasn't my best for them in those scenarios. And so we had made a huge commitment, even starting in the summer, which I have never done before, working on special situations, 2-for-1s, closing out quarters, how we shift things out of timeouts, what our go-to plays are going to be that we only run in certain scenarios, all of those special situations things. And then I think really getting our team to be able to play through chaos. And I think that we were sort of a mechanical, way too mechanical. And last year, and I needed to look in the mirror and go, how did I contribute to that? Like what was that? Because I want a team that's disciplined, but that plays it like an art project, not a scientific formula. And I had to go, okay, there's a theme here last year that isn't just their fault. It's got to be my fault. And so really have tried to empower them more, create chaotic situations in practice, create adverse scenarios. I'm the least favorite coach from pretty much November to through. And I think I had to be my role, that I needed to push them out of that comfort zone and create the struggle and adversity that was going to make them learn to be empowered to make their own decisions. And so those are 2 things that I felt like I needed to respond to from last year.
Miriam Swanson, Southern California News Group. I was going to ask about the loss to USC, but I'm curious, how do you do that at practice? Sort of create chaos?
Oh, there's a variety of different ways. Sometimes, actually, and I saw the UConn team is in our hotel, and actually I've picked Gino's brain a lot on that. And, sometimes it's put an extra defender on there. Sometimes creating a drill that you're automatically at a disadvantage. Sometimes giving like 3 in a row terrible calls. Sometimes telling the scout guys to cheap shot them. I mean, not dangerously, but so it's a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's telling our point guards, you can't run a play, you got to make a play, and defining what that looks like, and then showing them on film. So I just think it's trying to teach the game and teach them how to play it, as opposed to just calling a bunch of plays.
Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. What are you expecting from Flau'jae Johnson after an off night for her?
Well, it's sort of scary because you don't really see her have 2 off nights in a row, right? So, but I think the reality for her is how she gets going is in transition. So our ability to value the ball, not have live ball turnovers, and also to have really quality shot selection so that we can set our transition defense effectively. I can't remember, I probably have it here, but what percentage of her shots come in transition, but it's really, really high. And so if you're talking about a player, the 2 ways to get going is get out in transition and get to the free throw line. So to be really disciplined with her, to not foul her, and to send multiple defenders in transition situations so that we get it out of her hands. But man, she really is a great player. And talk about someone who's been great for the game. I just really admire how she's juggled all the different things that she does in life, let alone on the court. And, I'm a big pioneer trying to be of growing the game. And I look to her. She's doing a great job. And I just want to compliment her for that. And our game is better off for it.
Michael Koppel, WBRZ TV in Baton Rouge. Just the efficiency with which Lauren's playing, obviously, last night. Is that the direct result of those deep touches that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think it's also a direct result of the work she does after practice every day with Coach Shannon and our scout team guy, Johnny. I have to give him a shout out. He's been really instrumental in making practice really harder than any defender she's going to have to face in a game. And literally they work on those deep touches, trying to get in spaces where she doesn't have to dribble. And then also working on her offhand. Excuse me. And she literally, that's the very first thing she does in her post-practice work every single day. And it's just gotten more and more and more efficient. And this is like the 4th game in a row. A lot of this credit goes to Lauren, but it's why we get so angry with them when we turn the ball over in careless situations, because if we don't turn it over, we're shooting over 60%, and as a team, we get great shots. We have a lot of weapons. So it's just really important that we value those possessions and value the ball, because we're a very efficient basketball team when we do.
We're going to go to Zoom for one question from Joe Pakowski. Joe?
Joe Pachowski, the mighty Bruin coach. In each of the last 2 games, the team has struggled a little bit in the second quarter. How do you get them to play better, to play a more complete game moving forward as the level of difficulty increases?
We did talk about that. I think everyone always wants to ask me about what we say at halftime, because we've had unbelievable third quarters. But just get a new coach for the second quarter, and then we'll be back and take care of business after that. But the reality, we just told them, they come out really, really focused, and it actually comes back to that chaos situation. We said you start really well in terms of executing the game plan and what we're doing, and then we come out when we can regroup after halftime. But in the middle of the battle, you all have to catch that, and because we can't call timeout every possession and be like, okay, let's regroup here, right? So we were just really talked about in that film session today, like when those runs happened what led to those, and how do we go about being more self-aware of where we're vulnerable in those second quarters and tighten those things up that are consistently leading to us having a little dip.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you.
Alyssa Charleston-Smith, Big Ten Network. Coach, I'm curious how you think LSU's defense has changed since last year, and more or less physical than Ole Miss?
Yeah, that's pretty close. I would say maybe, they're not up pressuring full court. They're not denying as much one pass away. I think they're just as physical. But different style in the way that they effectively defend. We had trouble reversing the basketball last night and them all out in the Ole Miss out in the passing lanes. But I think that, they're really aggressive and try to poke, but it's from more of a conservative position. They really want to load the paint and keep everything in front of them. And so our challenge is going to be to change their angles off the screen, to create ball reversal, to do more off the pass. We're not going to try to get downhill versus them, like we really wanted to attack. When we didn't get the ball to Lauren, we wanted to attack downhill and try to attack the space that they create by getting out in those passing lanes. Well, I think it's going to be really different in this particular game. So our offensive package, I think, will be significantly different than it was against Ole Miss, but both equally physical.
All right, we'll be back with UCLA student athletes in just a moment. Thank you,
All
Coach.
right. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you.
All right, we welcome UCLA student athletes Lauren Betts, Kiki Rice, and Londynn Jones, and we will open it up for questions for these three.
Greg Lee with the Spokesman Review. Lauren, you mentioned last night after the game that it was physical. You played through it because you didn't expect to call or anything. Do you think it's going to be even more physical against LSU?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we played LSU before. They're a really physical, really aggressive team. Obviously matching up against Morrow, she's going to be super physical and want to get every single rebound. So just making sure that, we come out with that mentality that we're just not going to let that happen and we're going to attack from the very beginning. And I think that just starts with, warm-ups. It starts with just making sure we're prepping the right way.
Nancy Hammer, USA Today Sports. This is for any one of you. What do you remember from last year's game, and how and why do you think that you are a different team and one that can handle that late game situation than you did last year?
Kiki?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all remember a lot about the game, the intensity, how physical it was, what a great matchup it was. Obviously we didn't come out on top last year, but I think just everything that we learned from their style of play and how we needed to come out and how we needed to be more prepared and just be a tougher team. A lot of our learnings from last year were from that game, and I think how we've attacked this season as an entirety and as a whole has really prepared us really well for tomorrow's matchup. But we'll be prepared, we'll be ready. We have a great team, a great staff that will prepare us. So I'm excited.
Eden Lassie, Hoops HQ. This can be for any of you guys. Coach O was talking about last night, one of the things that she couldn't believe about your team was that you had players like Janiyah and Tamia coming off the bench. How has it helped you, and what's impressed you about the way that, they've embraced their roles to bring that energy off the bench?
Londynn, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think we have just a really good team, and a part of that is how deep we go. And so it's just any given night where anyone can do their thing. Coming off the bench, it really doesn't matter. We just know our role. And I think that goes to just show you how powerful our team is. And so when they get on the court, there's no telling what they can do. And I think that's just the depth of it, yeah.
This is for Kiki and Lauren, if you could. We'll start with Kiki. I think you kind of touched on it, but Coach also said the differences from last year that you guys took were maybe more mental and confidence and maybe approach mentally. Is that accurate? Do you feel like you guys have a tougher mindset going into this game, or because of the things that you learned about in that game last year?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think we felt like last year LSU was a tougher team in that matchup, and a lot of our work during the offseason, just throughout this entire year, has been how can we kind of build that collective toughness to be ready for those matchups and be ready for physical teams, be ready for these kind of environments. And I think everything that we've worked on will prepare us for our game tomorrow, and I'm just really excited for everyone to see that.
Yeah, I think like Kiki said, I mean, I think this season we've overcome a lot of adversity and we've beaten really physical teams. And so I think just, learning from that, I think we have a lot of confidence going into tomorrow.
Duke Nguyen with the LA Times London, kind of speaking to that, Cori was talking to us about how she tried to create chaos in practice by doing things that may have annoyed you guys. But how do you think that's helped you just have a stronger mindset, being able to play through chaos, weird situations to be able to get here?
Yeah, it's prepared us for adversity. I mean, we face a lot of different teams, and so it's prepared us for that. And I think just going into practice with the mentality of like we need to get better and we need to figure it out no matter what's thrown our way. And I think that's helped during the season because, like I said, we've been thrown with so many different things, so many different teams, different dynamics, matchups. So it just matters to go like preparation. I think is a really big thing for preparing us for where we want to go.
Jacques Doucet, WAFB TV. Lauren, I just wanted your thoughts on the way Anissa Morrow plays as an undersized player. And although LSU doesn't have Angel Reese anymore, Samaya's really come on in the last couple of games. So can you maybe talk about their post play?
Yeah, I think they're both really talented. I mean, Morrow, she's just a beast on the boards, and we obviously looking through the film today. I think tomorrow we're just going to have to come out with a really physical mentality and just making sure that we don't rely on our height, that we actually like find a body and box somebody out. So I think that's going to be really important. And then, yeah, I mean, both of them just really skilled. And I think, as forwards, I think we're just going to have to really step up and just, making sure that we follow the scout and we know what we're going to do. But, we can't go out there and just let the game kind of come to us. We have to come out with that mindset that we're just going to attack them first and be the aggressors. So.
Hi guys, Kendra Andrews, ESPN. This is for any one of you, and it's kind of along those same lines, but just what stands out to you about LSU's like three-headed dog of Anissa, Flau'jae, and Michaela?
Kiki, would you take this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great, a great trio of players right there. I mean, they're a great team in general. And I think what Lauren said looked like the great rebounding team and also a great mid-range scoring team. And I think for us to kind of be able to identify what they like to do, they like to get second chance putbacks. They like to, Michaela and Flau'jae like to, operate out of those ball screens. And as guards, I think for us being able to defend those is going to be crucial. And for our forwards boxing out and our guards helping with that as well. But I think, we're going to be prepared for their style of play, and we've played a lot of teams that are similar, and I think that's one of the best things about our conference. We've had a lot of different matchups that have kind of allowed us to get used to playing different styles of play. And so, yeah, we're excited for the opportunity.
Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. Lauren, as far as preparing for physicality, one of the things that Cori mentioned was your work with Coach Shannon, and I believe it's Johnny from the practice squad. What does that sort of consist of, and how does that prepare you?
Yeah, I I mean, Johnny, all of them. I mean, we can go down the list of all the posts that we have in our practice squad. They're all really physical, and they really don't ever take it easy on me. So I think that's just prepared me and, made me a lot better throughout the season. I mean, I think, just going into every scout, I mean, they're always just doing their best to make sure that I'm mentally and physically prepared to whatever I have to go to. So I think just using that, going into tomorrow, I think or trusting my work that I put in, and I think that's gonna give me the confidence. So.
Nancy Amber, USA Today Sports. Kiki, UCLA has never made a Final Four. Given you all have had a terrific season and have accomplished a lot of milestones, but do you have to get to Final Four and then the championship game to kind of validate everything that you all have done this season?
I honestly think we're taking it one game at a time, focus on our next opponent. Obviously, right now, focusing on LSU. I think the most important thing for us this season is just the growth that we've experienced and how much better we've gotten as a program, and that will continue to kind of lay the groundwork and the standard going forward for many years for this program. But obviously we have aspirations of Final Four, a national title, and all of that. But, right now we're just focused on our next opponent.
This is for Londynn and Kiki. Coach talked about, obviously so much of the focus will be on Lauren and Anissa in that matchup, but she said it's going to take other players being an elite teammate, right? So what does that mean to you guys to be that elite teammate, maybe the person that's going to actually decide the game? And how much have you seen that play out this year as Lauren gets so much defensive attention?
Yeah, Lauren gets attention every game, but I think just being really good teammates outside of that, we know that we have to rebound. We know they're a rebounding team, so just helping post players out with that. And I think just being a good teammate, as in doing whatever it's going to take for us to win, whether that's rebounding, playing defense, talking, communicating, whatever it is that your role is. And I think that that's going to be really important. But Scout prepares us for that, and I think we know as guards what we need to do upcoming from this game.
Yeah, similar. I think it's going to be about playing our role. Obviously a lot of attention will go inside and the forwards, and they're going to probably send a few bodies into Lauren. So as guards, whether that means, just knocking down those shots, moving off the ball, rebounding, being really good on the ball screen defense. But, it's going to be all about, playing our role and just stepping up in whatever areas we need to.
More questions?
We can start with Lauren, but if anybody else wants to jump in this, did you like playing Ole Miss last night? Does it help you guys prepare for LSU and the physicality that you're going to see again?
I think we loved it. I think it was just honestly like a really good game to have before going into this LSU game. I mean, they're a really physical team, but we talked about it in film, like LSU's going to be even more aggressive. So just making sure that, we come out with that same mindset, but just earlier on in the game, I think will be super important for us. But I think we're all ready. I mean, we put in the work and we feel really confident. So.
Been able to do on the court, but Gabriella was talking about a little bit of you off the court and how you do a really good job at separating and not letting basketball be your whole identity. Can you kind of talk about like how that maybe helps just with the mental aspect of the game and not being too hard on yourself when things don't go your way?
I think that's something that I've definitely worked on, and it's, taken me a while, but I think that, not making this my entire world, obviously things are not going to be perfect all the time, but not letting this affect like the rest of my life. I mean, I love these girls. Besides just being my teammates, they're also my best friends, so I really prioritize my relationships with them off the floor, and just making sure that I get that one-on-one time with them is really important to me. But yeah, I mean, this isn't like my whole identity. I mean, I'm like a whole person besides all of this, so just making sure that I prioritize that as well. So.
Rowan Shaberg, the next. You mentioned the games that you've had, the conference, non-conference games preparing you for this moment. In a new conference with new teams that you've never played before, does that kind of offer a unique preparation for this postseason where you might be matching up with teams from different conferences that you might not know? Or is it just, Big Ten play, Pac-12 play kind of similar? Did it prepare you in a different way?
Kiki, you want to take this one?
I definitely think this year we played a ton of new teams that we hadn't played before, and that will for sure prepare us for, the NCAA tournament and just playing all the different styles of play. But I also think it prepared us from like a travel standpoint. I mean, in the Big Ten, we were doing a ton of cross-country road trips, a ton of, really long flights, and I think that's kind of what you're going to get come tournament time. So I think we're really prepared from that standpoint as well.
More questions? All right. We'll say thank you to the student athletes and let them go.